Hey guys, welcome back to FixItPhillip. Thanks for watching. Today we have a 2004 Dodge Ram 1500 four-wheel drive. It's a 4.7 liter V8 and it just got towed in right now and it's not starting. I checked the oil and the coolant just to make sure none of that was bone dry before we try to crank it, but this is what it does when you try to start it. So just a whole lot of cranking and no starting. I did hook up the scanner. There are no engine codes or transmission codes stored at all. Nothing related to a no start issue. So we're gonna do a couple tests and see if we can figure out what's going on. Okay, first thing I'm gonna do to see if it's lack of fuel or lack of spark, I'm gonna try to spray some starting fluid inside the throttle body. This has an aftermarket intake duct, so I'm just gonna pull off this little cover and spray some starting fluid in here. Brake cleaner will work fine too. So let's see if it starts. Okay, so it did start with the starting fluid for a little bit, so we know it's not a spark issue, so we definitely have something going on with the lack of fuel. So okay, I'm gonna check the fuel pump fuse and relay really quick and see if those are working okay. So I'm just gonna take off this fuse box cover. I got my power probe right here. Hook that up to the battery. Okay, fuel pump fuse is number 1720 amp, which is this one here, and that's good. And fuel pump relay number 58, which is this one here. I'm gonna use a scanner and activate the relay. Let's see, active test, fuel pump relay. Okay, I'm gonna press start actuator. We should hear it clicking. Which it is. I'll leave that going to see if we can hear anything inside the fuel tank. Here's a fuel tank here on the driver's side underneath, and I have the relay clicking on and off with the scanner, and I don't hear the fuel pump buzzing at all. So I'm gonna try banging on it. Sometimes that'll wake it up a little bit. Oh, I heard something. There it goes. So it's pulsing because the PCM is activating it on and off. Let's see if it'll start. We should turn off the fuel pump actuator from the scanner. Okay. Let's see. Oh, it's running. Okay, so we got a fuel pump going bad. I'm gonna drive it in the shop really quick and get on the lift, so it'll be easier to drop the fuel tank and change out the fuel pump than doing it right here on the ground. So sometimes if you bang on the tank, if you make a fist and bang on the tank, or use a mallet, you know, anything like that, sometimes you can wake up the fuel pump enough to get it started. And sometimes it'll run for a little bit, sometimes it's only for a few seconds, sometimes you can drive it enough to get to where you need to get to, but we definitely got to change the fuel pump out. So that's what we're gonna do today. I'm gonna show you guys how to change the fuel pump. Okay, so I got the truck on the rack. Here's a fuel door here. First thing we're gonna do is take off the filler line here and this breather line, disconnect that, and then we're gonna lower the tank down. We got two straps here, one here and one here. So on this one, you just push on this white plastic piece here, push in and it'll separate. It'll pull off. This one's just a hose clamp. bolts. Okay, for the fuel tank straps, we have 15mm nuts here. I'm just going to spray this down with some PB Blaster because they're all rusted. Then I have a transmission jack here. I'm going to just rest on the bottom of the fuel tank so it doesn't drop down. If you're doing this job on the floor, you can use a floor jack and a piece of wood to hold it up. Okay. Okay, these straps, we can actually pull them out of their little slot here and get them out of the way. Okay, now we're gonna lower the tank down just a little bit here. And enough room to disconnect the wiring and the fuel lines from the top of the tank. Okay, now we got it low enough that we can disconnect the electrical connector here and the fuel line. And we'll blow this off because there's a bunch of dirt everywhere. Okay, now we can push this little red security tab over. Okay. Okay, so if you want to drop the whole fuel tank on the ground, make sure you take off the rest of the evap lines and everything. I think I got enough room here to take it out. There's this lock ring here that we got to twist off, so I'm just going to use a screwdriver and a hammer. Now this whole thing can come out. As you can see, we still got a lot of dirt around here, so we're going to clean all this up, try not to get any dirt inside the actual fuel tank itself. Keep it clean in there. Okay, we got the new O-ring. Make sure you don't have any dirt inside here where the O-ring goes in. This one is caked with mud and dirt everywhere, so just clean it up as best as you can. Okay, and we got the new fuel pump assembly. Just be careful not to bend the float here. This notch right here is going to line up in between this gap here. Okay, we can lock the ring back in. Okay, just make sure it's locked all the way into place, all the way around. And now we can jack back up the gas tank and hook up the fuel line and the electrical connector. Okay, now we can put the filler line back on. And the breather tube here. And hook these fuel straps back on. Okay, so tank's all put back in. I tightened up the hose clamp here for the filler neck. The hose clamp down here at the fuel tank was a little bit loose, so I tightened that up as well. Okay, truck's back on the ground. Here's the old fuel pump assembly. This truck does not have an external fuel filter, but if your vehicle does, make sure you change it, because if you have an old clogged filter and you put the new fuel pump on there, it's just going to be a lot of stress on your new fuel pump. So let's turn the ignition on and off a couple times. And let's start it up. There we go, started right up. Alright guys, I'm on a test drive and the truck's running good, starting up every time. Hopefully this video helps you guys out if you have a crank and no start issue. And those quick tests you can do to try to isolate whether it's a no fuel or no spark issue. This one was no fuel. Make sure you check your fuel pump relay and your fuel pump fuse. Luckily for this one, we were able to bang the tank and wake up the fuel pump a little bit, enough to get it started and get it inside the shop. So thank you for watching. Be sure to hit that subscribe button, and remember, with FixItPhillip, you can fix it. I'll see you next time.